Hello, and welcome to Star Wars Stories Extended, and this is the story of R2-D2, Part 1. R2-D2 is an R2 series astromech droid manufactured by Industrial Automaton with masculine programming. A smart, spunky droid serving a multitude of masters over its lifetime, R2 never had a full memory wipe, nor has he received new programming, with these factors resulting in an adventurous and independent attitude, oftentimes finding himself in pivotal moments in galactic history. His bravery and ingenuity saved the galaxy time and time again. R2-D2 was one of several astromech droids stationed on Queen Amidala's Naboo Royal Starship during the invasion of Naboo by the Trade Federation. The ship was used by Queen Amidala and her entourage in an attempt to escape the planet. Unluckily for the ship's passengers, the vessels took a hit to the shield generator from a Trade Federation battleship. The astromechs were sent out to repair the ship, but only R2-D2 survived to bring the shields online by bypassing the main power drive. The ship landed on Tatooine without any further incidents. Although the voyage fried the hyperdrive, R2-D2 accompanied Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, Gungan, exiled Jar Jar Binks, and Padme, the Queen in disguise, to the city of Mos Espa to find a replacement. In the junk shop of the Toydarian merchant Watto, they found they could not afford a replacement hyperdrive, and later took shelter from a sandstorm in the home of Watto's slaves, a boy named Anakin Skywalker and his mother, Shmi. At the Skywalker home, R2-D2 met C-3PO, a protocol droid that Anakin had built. The two would bond as they worked on Anakin's personal pod racer. R2-D2 and C-3PO would cheer on Anakin during the Bunta Eve Classic. R2-D2 accompanied the group to Coruscant, and from there back to Naboo. 4 years later, as Amidala's term ended, the former monarch accepted the position as Naboo's senator. R2-D2 accompanied her retinue to Coruscant. As Amidala's experience as senator grew, she recognized the need to have an unobtrusive recorder and started using the astromech for that purpose, as well as general assistance during her first months as senator. 3 years after her appointment to the Senate, Amidala traveled from Naboo to Coruscant to vote against the Senate's proposed Military Creation Act, but chose a handmaiden to pose as her and to make the journey in an official ship, while Amidala flew in a Naboo Royal Starfighter with R2-D2 in the droid socket. After their arrival at a landing platform on Coruscant, a bomb detonated and killed most of the crew of the yacht. R2-D2 followed as Amidala's head of security, Captain Typho, rushed her to safety. Anakin Skywalker, now a Jedi Padawan, and his master Obi-Wan Kenobi were assigned by the Jedi Council to protect the senator from further assassination attempts, and R2-D2 was programmed to warn the two Jedi if anyone intruded into her apartment while she slept. Despite his programming, R2-D2 failed to detect the insertion of two poisonous Kuhuns into Amidala's bedroom, which had been administered through a hole in the window created by an ASN courier droid. Although Skywalker sensed and killed the creatures, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine of the Republic felt that Coruscant was an unsafe place for Amidala and agreed to delay the vote on the Military Creation Act so that she might lay low on Naboo under the watchful eye of Skywalker. R2-D2 accompanied Skywalker and Amidala onto a freighter whose voyage saw them posing as refugees, and brought them food in spite of the protests of a serving droid. After the ship's arrival at Theed, R2-D2 accompanied the two to the royal palace and quietly waited outside the royal court as the two met with Queen Amelia. Several days later, he journeyed with the two on Tatooine and Amidala's yacht as a restless Skywalker searched for his mother, and accompanied them to Watto's junk shop in Mos Espa. When Watto directed them to a moisture farm, the yacht was flown to the Great Chott Salt Flat, and Amidala instructed R2-D2 to remain with the ship while she and Skywalker went to the farm. While aboard the ship, R2-D2 received a hologram message from Kenobi, who was on Geonosis and whose long-range transmitter has been damaged by Jango Fett. Kenobi asked Skywalker to relay the message to Jedi Council on Coruscant. Leaving the ship, R2-D2 found Skywalker, Amidala, C-3PO, and the Lars family attending a funeral for Shmi Skywalker and informed them of the message. When C-3PO translated his binary beeps and whistles, Skywalker and Amidala returned to the ship and relayed the message to Coruscant. Seeing that Kenobi had had been captured by droidekas. While recording the message, the two decided to fly to Geonosis and rescue him. They were joined by R2-D2 and C-3PO, the latter having been given to Skywalker by his stepbrother, Owen Lars. Landing the yacht inside an exhaust vent on Geonosis, Skywalker and Amidala set out, leaving the droids behind. R2-D2 insisted on following them, but C-3PO disagreed and claimed to be in charge. R2-D2 ignored his friend and set out and was ultimately followed by a reluctant C-3PO. Within the planet's catacombs, Geonosian warriors swarmed by the droids in flight from Skywalker's lightsaber. The droids soon discovered an entrance to a battle droid factory, within which Skywalker and Amidala were battling Geonosian warriors. Hoping to reach them, R2-D2 knocked C-3PO off the platform on which they stood before activating his booster jets and soaring through the factory. Finding Amidala trapped in a large bucket, R2-D2 landed on a bridge and sliced into a computer terminal with his comp link, successfully saving the senator from being doused by molten ore. He also loosed the bucket from the mechanical arm which held it, spilling Amidala onto the factory floor. R2-D2 entered the battle and discovered C-3PO's head attached to a battle droid's body. Using his capable gun to detach the head, R2-D2 dragged it across the arena and grafted it to the correct torso. Shortly after the battle, R2-D2 and C-3PO accompanied Amidala and Skywalker back to Naboo, where they were the lone witnesses to a wedding between the two in the planet's lake country. R2-D2 remained with Amidala on Coruscant during the initial battles of the war, as did C-3PO, who had been given to the Senator by Skywalker as a wedding gift. The three witnessed Skywalker depart the planet in a starfighter on his way to lay siege to Munalinst. Sometime later, the droids were traveling with Amidala in her royal yacht while the ship was host to Yoda. After Yoda convinced Amidala and Captain Typho to make a detour, the ship headed to Ilum on a rescue mission of the Jedi Luminara Unduli and Baris Ofi. The Jedi Master set out into the planet's blizzard alone, but a worried Amidala, after being assured by R2-D2 that his sensors were functioning properly in the snowy weather, soon set out to find him with the droids in tow. During the search, R2-D2's sensors detected several incoming objects, which turned out to be three cloaked separatist chameleon droids. Amidala destroyed all three, and the trio was greeted by their three wayward Jedi. Yoda, concerned that the location of Ilum's crystal caves had been discovered by the separatists. Slicing into one of the destroyed droids, R2-D2 discovered and revealed a hologram of Count Dooku, head of state of the Confederacy, giving instructions to destroy the caves. After Skywalker was elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight, he gave his former Padawan braid to Amidala as a gift. R2-D2 was present when she received the hairpiece. In return, Amidala gave the astromech droid to her husband. Traveling to a hangar, R2-D2 showed Skywalker a hologram of Amidala, indicating the droid's new ownership, much to Skywalker's delight. R2-D2 was then locked into the Jedi Knight starfighter, and the two departed the planet. R2-D2 flew with Skywalker in space combat throughout much of the war, including a battle where Skywalker saved Jedi Master Say-Si-Tin from droid tri-fighters. Skywalker programmed a large amount of tactical data and locations of Republic bases into the droid's memory and broke protocol by never giving R2-D2 a memory wipe. The droid was with Skywalker when he returned to Coruscant to visit Amidala. When the native population of the planet Christophsis appealed to the Jedi for aid in repelling an invading separatist force, Kenobi, now a high Jedi general, and Skywalker, a Jedi general, arrived in the planet's Crystal City with a contingent of clone troopers and R2-D2. Following a disastrous ambush by battle droids, R2-D2 watched as Clone Commander CC-2224, nicknamed Cody, and Clone Captain CT-7567, nicknamed Rex, analyzed the recovered head of TJ-55, a T-Series tactical droid, in the communication center of the Republic base. When the two troopers discovered a spy in their midst, they rushed out of the center but later returned and employed R2-D2 in locating any transmissions the spy had made. Plugging into a computer terminal, R2-D2 discovered a number of external communications that had taken place every few days in an irregular pattern. He traced them to the barracks of the clone trooper Sergeant Slick, which ultimately resulted in Cody and Rex fettering out the traitor. A large force of battle droids marched on the city, but was repelled by the Jedi and the Republic Army. As a second wave arrived, R2-D2 was in the thick of the battle, but retreated to the safety of the Republic's AV-7 anti-vehicle cannon as the cannons fired at the droids' armored assault tanks. After the droids retreated from the overwhelming cannon fire, a shuttle arrived on planet from Coruscant and landed in the city's plaza. R2-D2 followed Kenobi and Skywalker to the plaza and squealed in delight as the shuttle's lone occupant disembarked, Ahsoka Tano, Skywalker's new Padawan learner. As the Separatist army set up a deflector shield, R2-D2 joined Skywalker, Kenobi, Tano, and Rex at a council of war where a plan was hatched to disable the shield. During the ensuing firefight, R2-D2 again remained with the Republic's cannons, which decisively ended the battle following the sabotage of the Separatist shield generator. In the wake of the victory, Yoda arrived in Crystal City and ordered Skywalker and Tano to Teth to rescue the kidnapped son of the notorious crime lord Jabba the Hutt. R2-D2 traveled with him to the Outer Rim world and was present in the hangar of Skywalker's Acclamator-class transport while Skywalker was briefed on the situation planetside, and while Tano bragged of her exploits on Christophsis to a group of clone troopers. Skywalker and Tano led their troops to a successful siege of a Bomar Order monastery occupied by Separatist forces, and rescued Rota the Huttlet from within. Outside the castle, R2-D2 sat in Skywalker's starfighter and projected a holographic transmission from Kenobi, which was cut short by the arrival of several Confederate C-9979 landing craft and vulture droids. R2-D2 jettisoned himself from the starfighter mere seconds before it received a barrage of blaster fire and exploded. As B-1 and B-2 battle droids swarmed the exterior of the castle, R2-D2 followed Tano inside and was joined by Skywalker and several clone troopers before the castle's doors slammed shut. Tano quickly devised an escape plan and brought R2-D2 and Skywalker to a computer terminal where the astromech droid sliced in and located a backdoor landing platform. En route to the platform, the trio was met by the dark acolyte Asajj Ventress and several B-2 droids, but before a skirmish could ensue, R2-D2 activated a trap door in the floor, sending everyone present plunging down a long chute and into a small arena. As Skywalker dueled Ventress, Tano neutralized the droid threat. A second group of B-2 droids arrived in an overhead gallery, but were assailed by R2-D2 and knocked into the arena below. The distraction offered by a jungle rancor present in the arena allowed an outgunned Ventress to escape, and the trio continued to the landing platform. Arriving at the platform, they were again greeted by Ventress, this time with several droidekas in tow. But R2-D2 was able to close the door to the platform before their foes arrived. After Skywalker leaped off of the platform and onto the back of a large winged insectoid, he tamed the beast and used it to tackle Ventress, who had cut through the door with her lightsabers and was dueling Ahsoka. As Ahsoka joined her master on the beast's back, R2-D2 activated his booster rockets and followed them to Ventress' secret landing platform located on a nearby mesa. The Huttlet was strapped to R2-D2 as the two Jedi attempted to start the engines of the Twilight, a freighter they discovered, but it was R2-D2 who was able to successfully get the ship running. Unable to rendezvous with the Star Destroyer Spirit of the Republic, the trio was forced to take the freighter to Tatooine and deliver the Huttlet directly to his father. R2-D2 programmed the coordinates into the ship's navicomputer and it jumped to hyperspace. Above Tatooine, the freighter Twilight was attacked by vulture droids, the last of which was destroyed when R2-D2 plugged into a computer terminal and fired the freighter's cannons at it. Damaged in the firefight, the freighter crashed into the planet's Dune Sea, which forced Anakin, Ahsoka, and R2-D2 to journey to Jabba's palace on foot. When Anakin sensed the presence of the dark side of the Force, he suspected a nearby dark Jedi and set off to draw it towards him and away from Jabba the Hutt's son. He left Rota with R2-D2 and Ahsoka, who made it to Jabba's palace without incident until three IG-100 Magna Guards rose from the sand and attacked them. R2-D2 electrocuted one with his droid shock arm before being knocked away, and it fell to Ahsoka to destroy all three with her lightsaber. The two then entered the palace and returned the Huttlet, which, coupled with a holo transmission from Senator Amidala on Coruscant identifying Jabba's uncle Zero as a responsible party for the kidnapping, placated an angry Jabba and saved the lives of the two Jedi. R2-D2 was flying in the droid socket of Anakin's starfighter as they met Gold Squadron. They were there to blockade the planet of Bathawi since General Grievous intended to invade. When 6 Confederate frigates were outflanked by several Republic AT-TE walkers hiding on an asteroid, Grievous fled from his flagship in his personal starfighter and was pursued closely by Skywalker and R2-D2. A piece of shrapnel from an exploding frigate became lodged in Skywalker's fighter starfighter, and he lost both control of the ship and consciousness. The Jedi was soon recovered by Rex, but R2-D2 was salvaged from the starfighter's remains by the Trandoshan scavenger God Noct and brought aboard Noct's freighter, the Vulture's Claw. Noct suspected that the droid's memory contained valuable Republic information, and accordingly fitted R2-D2 with a restraining bolt and contacted Grievous, offering the droid in exchange for credits. En route to a rendezvous with the General, Noct slept in the freighter's bridge, which allowed R2-D2 to lose his restraining bolt and escape from the closet in which he was being held captive. As he rolled down the ship's corridors, he was pursued by an IG-86 Sentinel droid, but managed to slice into a computer terminal, shutting a blast door between the Sentinel and himself and opening a trap door beneath the Sentinel that jettisoned it into space. However, the mayhem woke Noct, who found R2-D2 and refitted the droid with his restraining bolt. Again, a captive R2-D2 was inspected by Pascal Argenti, the magistrate of the Separatist Allied Corporate Alliance, who boarded the Vulture's Claw with the hope of purchasing a spy droid. Although he showed an interest in R2-D2, Noct informed him that the astromech already had a customer. As the Vulture's Claw arrived at Skytop Station, a Confederate listening post in the Hoth Brand system, R2-D2 again worked at escaping his confinement. Cutting through a wall in the closet with his buzzsaw, he accessed a control panel and sent an audio transmission through the freighter's broadcast antenna, which was ultimately picked up by Anakin. Noct discovered the droid's actions and electrocuted him with an ion prod. The Trandoshan then landed the freighter at the listening post and brought R2-D2 before Grievous. General Grievous instructed Noct to take the droid apart and extract any information on the Republic from his memory, and Noct complied, discovering that R2-D2's memory contained every single Republic formation and strategy. Grievous killed Noct for demanding more credits and then instructed several of his Magna Guards to reconstruct R2-D2 and bring him to a secure location after learning that Republic troops had boarded the station. As the astromech was carried through the station's corridors, Anakin, who had traced R2-D2's broadcast to the system, located him and destroyed every Magna Guard with his lightsaber. As the skirmish occurred, a partially reconstructed R2-D2 managed to mostly reattach his arms and dome, and then electrocuted a Magna Guard as its destroyed arm attempted to grab Anakin's leg. Anakin was happy to see his friend again, but was promptly calmed by R3-S6, his replacement astromech droid, who was in fact a Confederate spy. After R2-D2 and Anakin raced back to the Twilight, which Anakin had docked in one of the station's hangar bays, R3-S6 revealed his true allegiance by shutting all the doors to the hangar and activating several derelict Vulture droids who, along with a group of B-2 battle droids, attacked Anakin, R2-D2, and a group of clone troopers. Anakin ordered R2-D2 to an outer platform to see if there was a way to open the hangar door. After rolling across a bridge, R2-D2 began to interact with a computer terminal but was accosted by R3-S6, who had followed him to the platform. The two astromechs began shooting electricity at each other, but R2-D2's lightning proved to be more powerful and incapacitated his foe. He successfully opened the hangar door, but was again attacked by R3-S6 and responded by shooting oil at his opponent. Having been rigged with explosives that had recently been detonated, the station began to weaken, causing the bridge to buckle and begin to collapse. R3-S6 began to tumble off, but held on by firing his cable gun at R2-D2. As the two droids slowly began to slip towards the edge of the collapsing bridge, R2-D2 fired his booster rockets, setting fire to the space between them, and used his buzzsaw to cut the cable, sending R3-S6 rocketing off the bridge and towards its destruction. R2-D2 then flew into Anakin's waiting starfighter with the aid of his rockets, and the ship sped away from the exploding station. News began to spread through the Republic of a separatist weapon that had destroyed over a dozen Republic warships and left no survivors. When Jedi Master Plo Koon's fleet was presumed destroyed in the Abrogado system, Anakin, Ahsoka, and R2-D2 took the Twilight from the Bith system to investigate, despite instructions from Master of the Order Mace Windu, stating that they were to remain with their fleet and protect vital convoy missions. Arriving in the Abrogado system, R2-D2 tuned the Twilight scanners to detect life forms, and received a HoloNet transmission from Kenobi, who instructed Anakin to rendezvous with his fleet. As the three prepared to leave the system, R2-D2 discovered a lifeform reading on the ship's emergency channel and traced the signal to a specific area of the shattered remains of Kuhn's fleet. When Ahsoka sensed Kuhn's presence, the three were able to employ a tow cable in bringing an escape pod aboard their ship, which was housing Kuhn and 3 clone troopers. The joy of the recovery was cut short when the Separatist secret weapon arrived in system, a heavy cruiser of prodigious proportions called the Malevolence, which supported massive ion cannons that it used to disable its prey. R2-D2 was shut off with the rest of the Twilight systems in a bid to avoid detection from the battleship's sensors. But when the gambit failed, the astromech droid was reactivated and plotted a hyperjump away from the system. Having successfully escaped the ion cannon's blast, the Twilight rendezvoused with the Star Destroyer Resolute. Hoping to acquire a group of Y-wing bombers to use against the heavy cruiser, Anakin brought R2-D2, Ahsoka, and the clone pilots of Shadow Squadron in the Twilight to the Bormus Testing Facility, a space station orbiting the planet of Bormus that possessed such a group. Aboard the station, R2-D2 plugged into a computer terminal and uploaded falsified documents that a protesting worker needed into the station's computer system, which claimed that Anakin had permission to take the untested fighters. With new fighters to their name, Shadow Squadron returned to the Resolute, where they were briefed by Anakin and Admiral Wolf Yularen. R2-D2 assisted in the briefing by projecting a hologram of the Malevolence, while Anakin outlined the squadron's attack strategy. Bomb the cruiser's bridge superstructure. R2-D2 joined Anakin and Ahsoka in one of the bombers. Having received intelligence that their target was heading towards the Republic's Khalida Shoals Medical Center, arriving inside the Malevolence, R2-D2 was ordered to remain at the airlock entrance, where he was soon calmed by Anakin and told to shut down a rail-jet hover train. After complying by means of a sliced computer terminal, the astromech droid was told to locate C-3PO, who had arrived with Ahsoka but had gotten lost. R2-D2 found his friend, and the two rendezvoused with Anakin and Padme before meeting Kenobi at the Twilight. The task of powering up its engine and releasing its docking clamp fell to R2-D2, who then scanned the Malevolence and discovered that it was powering up its hyperdrive. Owing to sabotage performed by Anakin and Padme, the hyperdrive caused the cruiser to explode as the Twilight sped to safety. Despite the victory, Grievous, who had been in command of the cruiser, escaped, and Anakin began dedicating his efforts to tracking the general down. R2-D2 stayed with his owner's side aboard the Resolute as Anakin forsook sleep in his task. However, the Jedi Knight's focus would soon shift to Count Dooku. R2-D2 aided Anakin in making his starfighter appear damaged in a ruse that ended with Anakin allowing himself to be captured by a Confederate Munificent-class star frigate commanded by Dooku near Vancouver. R2-D2 and C-3PO were again reunited during a trip to Orto Plutonia, the latter having been lent to Anakin by Padme for the mission to the icy world. The two droids met again when R2-D2, Kenobi, Anakin, and Ahsoka landed on Naboo in a low-altitude assault transport, having been sent by the Jedi Council in response to intelligence suggesting that a separatist biolab had been set up on the planet. Anakin sent Ahsoka and Peppy Bo to locate the laboratory, while he, Obi-Wan, and R2-D2 were shown a hologram of the scientist Dr. Nuvo Vindi. The Jedi managed to locate Vindi's laboratory in the planet's swamps and arrest the Mad Doctor, but Anakin, Obi-Wan, and R2 were forced to take the Twilight to Lego when Ahsoka, Padme, Jar Jar, Rex, and several other clone troopers became trapped in the laboratory with an airborne stream of the deadly blue shadow virus that Vindi had been synthesizing. Anakin and Obi-Wan were able to obtain a root of Lego's Rexa plant, which was a necessary ingredient in the antidote for the blue shadow virus, but were unable to leave the planet due to the presence of Droll, a laser web defense station that the Separatists had installed in the planet's orbit. After one unsuccessful attempt to pass through it, the Twilight landed in the spaceport city of Cliffhold, and R2-D2 received and amplified a holonet transmission from Padme and Ahsoka, both of whom were suffering from the effects of the virus. A plan was hatched to break through Droll, and as the Twilight left the city, several Volta droids that the Separatists had left on the planet were slave-rigged to control control of R2-D2. Via a computer terminal, R2-D2 sent the droid ships on suicide runs into Droll's laser generators, destroying the defense system and allowing the Twilight passage out of the system. R2-D2 set a course for Naboo, where the antidote was synthesized and the affected parties cured. The Resolute, along with the Star Destroyers Defender and Redeemer, were soon after called to the planet of Ryloth after inhabitants were enslaved by Wat Tambor, Emir of the Separatist Allied Techno-Union. An initial skirmish above the planet saw the destruction of the Redeemer, and when its companion ships fled, R2-D2 assisted Anakin in working on his Padawan starfighter, while Anakin and Ahsoka concocted a plan to break the blockade. The damaged Defender was evacuated, save for R2-D2 and Anakin, who piloted straight into the lead Separatist control ship. Prior to the crash, the two fled the Defender in an escape pod, which was recovered by the Resolute. With the blockade broken, Obi-Wan's troops could mount a ground assault of the planet. In the employ of Darth Sidious, the secret leader of the Confederacy, a Duros bounty hunter named Cad Bane stole a holocron from the archives of the Jedi Temple, but was subsequently pursued to Deveron by the Resolute. The Resolute targeted the hyperdrive of a Munificent-class frigate that Newt Gunray, the viceroy of the Separatist Allied Trade Federation, had lent to Bane, and the bounty hunter found himself trapped in the system. R2-D2, Anakin, Ahsoka, Rex, and a group of clone troopers took several ATTE walkers to the hull of the frigate in an attempt to board and recover the holocron. R2-D2 opened a hatch, allowing the party to board, and joined them as they stormed the bridge. Plugging into a computer terminal, R2-D2 discovered a hologram of Bane indicating that he had taken the Kyber crystal from the captured Jedi Master Bola Ropal and located the detention area where Ropal was being held. The party found Ropal dead, but were able to locate Bane with the help of R2-D2's glow rod. They followed him into a hangar that was filled with battle droids, and a fierce firefight ensued that saw Bane disable the ship's artificial gravity. Using his booster rockets, R2-D2 turned the gravity back on, and with the droids defeated, the boarding party fled the ship in a Sheathipede-class transport shuttle. Upon their return to the Resolute, it was discovered that Bane had donned the armor of a clone trooper and had fled with them. Bane quickly escaped the Resolute with a list of all known Force-sensitive children in the galaxy that he had obtained by combining the holocron and the Kyber crystal. Anakin and Ahsoka captured Bane on Naboo and brought him to the Resolute, where, with the aid of R2-D2, they investigated the bounty hunter's fighter and discovered that he had recently been to Mustafar. Hoping to find a higher power that they suspected Bane to be working for, the three took the Twilight to the volcanic planet. After landing, R2-D2 opened the door to a mining station and allowed Anakin and Ahsoka access, and followed them inside, later opening another door that allowed the two Jedi to flee the station with two recovered infants, Zentoa and Wee Dun. R2-D2 and Anakin accompanied C-3PO, Padme, Typho, and Senator Rush Clovis of the Intergalactic Banking Clan on Padme's starskip from Coruscant to Cato Nemoidia, where Padme parlayed with Senator Lot Dodd of the Trade Federation while simultaneously spying on Clovis. Both Dodd and Clovis were suspected of being in league with the Confederacy. R2-D2 and Anakin initially remained with the skiff outside Dodd's palace, but Anakin, disguised as a pilot, infiltrated the fortress and returned with a data card that Padme had stolen. R2-D2 took the data card and prepared the skiff for takeoff, which Typho piloted away from the planet after Anakin, Padme, and C-3PO returned. The data card contained tactical coordinates for a new droid foundry being constructed on Geonosis, and R2-D2 accompanied Anakin and several other Jedi to the planet as Republic forces laid siege to the factory. R2-D2 projected a hologram of the target as Anakin and Jedi Master Luminaria Unduli planned an attack. R2-D2 later joined a clone escort that included Anakin, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Cody, and Rex. The group was aboard the starship Coronet in an effort to ensure the Duchess Satine Kryze of Mandalore and several other senators belonging to Kryze's Council of Neutral Systems safe passage from Satine's homeworld to Coruscant. As it was suspected that Kryze's enemies, the Death Watch, were allied with the Confederacy, R2-D2 and the clone troopers aboard patrolled the ship's cargo hold in search of any suspicious droid activity. When R2-D2 discovered a solitary clone trooper helmet, his agitated beeping and whistling, coupled with the disappearance of troopers Mixer and Red-Eye, prompted Rex to contact Anakin. whose arrival resulted in R2-D2's discovery of an empty cargo box and an assassin probe droid. The probe was destroyed by Anakin and the clones, but its mangled remains began spewing legions of tiny probe killers, some of which R2-D2 electrocuted with his droid's shock arm. The astromech went on to electrocute one more probe killer just as it was about to strike at Rex's throat. Anakin and the clone troopers destroyed the remaining probes, as well as several B-2 battle droids that arrived on the ship via 3 Druk-class boarding ships and the traitorous Senator Tal Merrick, and the ship arrived safely at Coruscant. When Separatist forces attacked the native Dug on the planet Malastare, the long campaign worried the Supreme Chancellor, who was interested in the planet's fuel resources. Palpatine approved the use of the Republic's newest weapon, the Electro-Proton Bomb, and R2-D2 accompanied Anakin and Mace Windu to Malastare to oversee the weapon's detonation. The bomb was dropped on advancing Separatist forces, releasing an electromagnetic pulse that short-circuited the systems of the battle droids, but creating a sinkhole in the ground. R2-D2 joined Anakin, Mace, Rex, Dug leader Naka Urus, creator of the bomb Dr. Sion Ver Bol, and a hologram of the Supreme Chancellor at a roundtable discussion regarding the retrieval of clones that had fallen into the sinkhole and the signing of a treaty that would secure the planet's fuel reserves for the Republic. Anakin left to negotiate with the Dug Council, but soon calmed R2-D2 and told him to ready his starfighter. The two piloted the ship into the sinkhole where Mace and several clones were battling a Zillo Beast, a massive creature that the bomb's detonation had awakened. A swipe from the Zillo Beast caused the fighter to crash, and as it approached the downcraft, Anakin yanked R2-D2 out of the droid socket and rode the droid to safety via R2-D2's booster rockets. He told the droid to get to safety, but R2-D2 again, using his rockets, remained in the vicinity of the beast as Anakin attacked it. When the Jedi Knight leapt off of the Zillo Beast's head, R2-D2 positioned himself beneath his master's trajectory, allowing Anakin to land on the droid and safely ride him out of the sinkhole. The Dugs began dropping bombs into the sinkhole, but found the weapons unable to penetrate the beast's armored scales. R2-D2 joined the two Jedi, Rex and Bull, as they contacted the Supreme Chancellor and requested permission to spare the innocent creature's life. Anakin proposed using stun cannons on gaps in the beast's armor to put it to sleep and transport it off the planet, and when Bull convinced Palpatine to acquiesce, the plan was successfully executed. R2-D2 was present in Uru's palace as the Council signed a treaty welcoming them into the Republic. The Zillo Beast was then transported to Coruscant, and R2-D2, Anakin, and Mace accompanied it there, meeting the Supreme Chancellor on a landing pad as he placed the beast in Dr. Bull's care. Opinions on what to do with the beast differed greatly within the small circle of those who knew of its existence. When Senator Amidala caught wind of Palpatine's plan to kill it, she contacted Obi-Wan, who invited Anakin to meet him in the Senate building. R2-D2 accompanied his master and greeted C-3PO, who was attending Padme and Obi-Wan. The senator convinced her husband to appeal to his friend Palpatine, and the droids joined their masters in appearing before Palpatine in the Chancellor's suite. As Anakin and Padme discussed their options with Palpatine and Vice Chair Mas Amedda, the Zillo Beast meanwhile escaped from his captivity and began charging through Coruscant's cityscape. R2-D2 displayed a hologram to Anakin from one of the clone troopers attempting to halt it, but when the beast reached the Chancellor's office, everyone present evacuated through an emergency escape route. Amedda had previously excused himself from the discussion, but Palpatine, Anakin, and Padme, R2-D2, and C-3PO boarded an executive ship piloted by a Senate commando. As the commando took the ship into the air, it was grabbed by one of the Zillo Beast's massive hands. To escape the Zillo Beast, Anakin used his lightsaber to cleave the ship clean in half, sending the bow and all 6 passengers sliding down the exterior of the Senate rotunda. R2-D2 skidded down the side of the building and used his tow cable to catch himself in place. C-3PO landed atop him, but the astromech droid Su disengaged himself from the cable and used his booster rockets to make his way over to Palpatine. The Senate commando sacrificed himself to the rampaging Zillo Beast as the Chancellor rode a flying R2-D2 to safety. Clone troopers in LAT gunships used gas bombs to kill the creature and end the threat it posed to Coruscant citizens, and the poison they emitted was held back with the force of Anakin, as well as Yoda and Aayla Secura. R2-D2, Palpatine, and the 3 Jedi remained safe from the poisonous gas, as did Padme and C-3PO, who had also safely landed. The following morning, the entire party was present as a Zillo Beast's corpse was taken away from the scene. When Anakin and Mace were sent to the Star Destroyer Endurance to greet a detachment of clone cadets from the Clone Youth Brigade, R2-D2 stayed at his master's side and was present when the group of youngsters were shown the ship's bridge. Several of the cadets were given the opportunity to fire the destroyer's gun at skeet targets launched by Sergeant Stu, and R2-D2 bore witness to Boba Fett, now a bounty hunter, hit all of his targets with one shot. Fett was infiltrating the group of his brethren in an attempt to avenge his father's death and kill Mace Windu. When Boba Fett sabotaged the ship, R2-D2 was on the bridge when Anakin unsuccessfully attempted to persuade Admiral Sean Killian to evacuate the failing destroyer, and then evacuated with Anakin in the Jedi Knight's interceptor. As the Endurance crashed onto the planet Vancor, R2-D2 and Anakin took their interceptor to rescue the young clone cadets from an escape pod that Fett had left them in after escaping on his ship, the Slave One. After adventures on Cato Nemoidia and Scipio, R2-D2 was ordered by Anakin to accompany Master Yoda on a quest as part of his Jedi trials. Earlier, Master Yoda had been contacted by the Force Ghost of the late Master Qui-Gon Jinn. During the journey, R2 sat in the socket of Yoda's Jedi starfighter. Their first stop was the remote planet world of Dagobah. There, Yoda received further instructions to travel to the origin of life, a strange planet that lay in the middle of a cloud of golden energy. During their journey to the mysterious planet, R2-D2 and the starfighter systems malfunctioned, forcing Yoda to place his faith in the Force to guide them to safety. After landing near a geyser, Yoda instructed R2-D2 to stay behind while he continued his journey into the geyser. After completing his Jedi trials there, Yoda traveled with R2-D2 to the planet Korriban, the ancient homeworld of the Sith. Yoda instructed the astromech droid to wait with his starfighter and to return to Coruscant if he had not returned within 3 days. Yoda completed his Jedi trials and saw a vision of the Great Jedi Purge, the rise of the Galactic Empire, and a new hope. However, he did not share any of his experiences with R2 or his Jedi peers.